Hi everyone, I'm Ava and welcome back to Delightful Dolls. In today's video, I'm going to be showing all of you how to easily make a Barbie doll look more realistic without having to start from scratch and doing a full-on repaint. If you don't already know, I do have a series on my channel where I give doll makeovers and I do transform the faces. Here is my most recent doll makeover and I'll show a video of what she looked like before, and as you can see, she's definitely changed up a lot. But today I'm just going to be focusing on the face because I have never really gone into depth on how exactly I do everything, and I think it would just be helpful for those of you who want to make your dolls look a little more realistic without starting from scratch. Here is the doll we'll be changing today. As you can tell, she's an older Barbie and has a ton of makeup that just really doesn't make her look realistic at all. And in general, she just looks like a very plastic, average, old Barbie doll. So we're going to change her so she can look a little more realistic. First things first, I'm going to start by tying the doll's hair back just so it's out of the way while we're customizing her face. And before we can actually get to any of the fun part, we have to remove some of her makeup. For this step, 100% acetone works the best, but I actually don't have any right now. So I'm just using some nail polish remover, which does work as well, just not as good. And all I do is I just dip a Q-tip into the nail polish remover or acetone. I have these kind of cotton swabs where one side is actually pointy and the other is kind of like a normal cotton swab. So these are super awesome. Of course, if you don't have those, normal cotton swabs work just as well. And for small details, you can even take a bit of the fluff and put it on a toothpick to get the really small details. I'm going to start by removing all of her lipstick. And now that her lips are completely clean, we're gonna work on the eyeshadow. Now, I have never tried fully redoing a doll's eye, and I know it'd be a lot of work. So what I usually just try to do when dolls have eyeshadow like this is actually remove it in between the eyelashes. Of course, it's easier if the doll doesn't have any eyeshadow, then you can just leave this step alone and not have to worry about it. But as you can see, this doll has a lot of eyeshadow that makes her look, in my opinion, less realistic. So we're going to remove all of that. Because it is such a small area we're working with, I'm going to use that same cotton swab toothpick method so we can get into all those small spaces. And I just carefully remove the eyeshadow. Be very careful, even if this step takes some time, because you don't want to accidentally remove an eyelash or some of the eyebrow. Then again, worst case scenario, you could always redo it, but it's just creating more work. So I'm just going to be really careful while removing this. I'm going to start with this glittery eyeshadow. Also, just want to mention, I'm definitely going to be switching out the cotton swab end every time it gets a lot of color on it, just to keep everything clean and so it won't smear anything around. At this point, all of the glitter from her left eye is removed and it already looks a lot better. You could leave it at this because it already made a big change and the next step is a little tricky, but I'm going to do the next step anyways. You basically just have to be really careful not to accidentally take off one of her eyelashes and just go in between them to get, for me, all of that pink eyeshadow off. And also, if you are skilled enough, you could always just remove all of those eyelashes and redo them. I could probably do it, but I know it'd be a lot of work, so this is just the way I like to do it. So as you can see, most of the pink eyeshadow is gone, and even if there is a little bit left over because it is super hard to get it all, if anything, it makes it look more like it's supposed to be a kind of blended eyeshadow look and not so harsh like on this eye. So overall, I like how it looks, and I'm actually going to also get rid of the eyeshadow on her under eye area. And now I'm going to move to the other eye. And now that I have all the makeup that I want removed, we can start with the actual coloring and changing of the features. Now, if you've seen my doll makeover videos, you already know that I like to use matte Mod Podge mixed with acrylic paint to give the doll new facial features. So the first thing I want to change is her eyes because they do look pretty unrealistic right now. And even if you make the irises the same color, it can just really help make them look more realistic if you redo them in a more realistic way. So because I want to make her eyes a bit of a grayish blue color, I'm just going to mix together blue and black. I'm also going to add a little bit of white. And then I just mix that with a drop of the matte Mod Podge. The Mod Podge just helps everything to stay in place, and for me personally, I haven't had any problems with this method. And once I have the color, I just take a little bit of it and I'm just going to fill in her iris. Then taking a bit of a darker shade, I paint that around where we just painted and kind of blend it together with the part we just painted. It already definitely looks more realistic. So I'm just gonna repeat that with the other eye. And once I'm happy with that, I'm gonna mix together white acrylic paint and the Mod Podge. As you can see on my doll, she has some blue lining in where the white part of her eye is. So I'm just gonna kind of cover that up with some white so those blue lines kind of go away, because I feel like they don't help things look realistic. Next, I'm gonna grab some black and I'm going to refill in her pupils. Then using some white, I'm gonna give her a small little shine in her eyes. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of pink to the inner corners of her eyes, and keep in mind every color I'm using, I'm still mixing with that same matte Mod Podge. And to ensure her eyes stay the way they are, I'm going to grab some more matte Mod Podge and just put a very thin layer over her whole eye. Not on her eyelashes or anything, just her eyeball. And now I'm gonna let her eyes dry, and don't be alarmed, her eyes won't look like this once they're all dry. Now I'm gonna work on the mouth area. So to start, I'm going to paint back her teeth. So yeah, these teeth are anything but perfect right now, but when you put on the lip color, you won't even notice all of those mistakes. For me, I find when you go more with a natural lip color, it can help the doll look more realistic. Of course, you can use whatever colors you want. I'm personally going to be mixing together pink and brown and maybe a little red as well to get the color that I want. And this time, instead of matte Mod Podge, I'm going to be using glossy Mod Podge just so it can have more of a gloss on her lips. Now this next step I find really helps make the doll more realistic, and that's by taking some brown and I'm going to just give her eyebrows some little eyebrow hairs. Just to give it a little bit more detail and make it look more realistic, like everything else. I also take a lighter shade of brown and I just add a little bit of that into her nostrils just to darken them up a little bit. With that same brown, I like to give dolls little imperfections or like freckles, moles, beauty marks, things like that. So I'm just going to kind of give her a few freckles to start off. And really just scatter them randomly and don't make them too big. I also put a couple on her nose as well. I'm also going to give her one larger beauty mark by her eye. And I think that just looks so cute. And while I'm at it, there is a little bit of eyeshadow left in her eye that I just wasn't brave enough to actually remove because I knew I couldn't. But I think I'm going to actually put some brown where that kind of yellowish green color is, just so I can at least make it a different, more natural color. I also added a little bit of pink to the brown so it wasn't such a dark color. Now I want to give the doll some blush because I feel like she doesn't really have enough already, and I feel like blush just makes dolls look more lifelike. So to do that, I have some chalk pastels, and I'm going to use this red color and this kind of peachy tan color. Using a toothpick, I just scrape off some of the chalk. Then using a slightly dampened Q-tip, I'm going to kind of mix those colors together. And I'm going to use some of that to give the doll some blush. I like using a damp Q-tip just so it helps pick up the actual chalk easier. Start off with a little amount and keep adding if you need to. And I start by putting some on her cheeks. I also use a dry Q-tip sometimes too, just so it doesn't get so wet. I kind of go back and forth with the damp and the dry one. I also add a little bit to the tip of her nose. And then the tiniest amount on her chin. Now that we're done with her face, we can take out her ponytail. So here she is, all done, and I personally do think she looks a lot better this way. I know lots of people like the look of the original Barbies, but personally for me, I just like the more realistic look. I'll put a picture of what she looked like before so you can really see the full difference. As for the technique I use, Mod Podge has just been the thing I've been doing for a while now, and I honestly haven't had any problems with it. It stays on when you rinse underwater, and as long as you don't purposely try to pick at it or ruin it, everything should stay. Of course, using things like sealant, like Mr. Super Clear, would help everything for surely stay in place, but those things can get pretty pricey, and a little container of Mod Podge is only like $2, so I think it's worth it. I know lots of you have seen me do face repaints on dolls before, but I feel like in today's video I went a little bit more in depth and really just focused on the face. And hopefully that really helps people who want to redo dolls' faces, but don't really have the budget to get all these tools to do so. I also want to know if you guys want to see me continue her makeover. Maybe I should rewear her hair, give her some earrings, a new outfit. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to change her up even more. I do feel like overall this process is fairly easy, especially considering most repaints restart the whole face and get rid of everything, and this is definitely much easier than that. The eyeshadow removal part was probably the hardest part, but if you don't have eyeshadow on your dolls, then you don't even have to worry about that step. Or if you just like the eyeshadow the way it is, then you don't have to worry about that either. But overall, I hope you guys like this technique and maybe give it a try yourself. Before we end today's video, the shoutouts for today go to Justice Thornton, Rain Hatham, and Maggie Davis. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. And remember, if you want a chance of getting a shout out, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and comment down below with the hashtag DDSquad, and you'll have a chance of getting a shout out in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it really does support me, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Anyways, I'll see all of you in the next one. Bye!